Get ready for a wild ride through the world of Family Guy. As a superfan who's devoured every episode, I've calculated just how much prison time Peter Griffin would serve if karma ever caught up with him. And trust me, this list is gonna blow your mind. Let's start with his welfare fraud in the pilot episode. I mean, who needs a job when you can fake a disability and live large on welfare checks?
Okay, do you have any disabilities, past injuries, physical anomalies?
I didn't have gas for the first time until I was 30. What the hell?
After losing his job due to his drinking habits,
What are you gonna do?
Boys, we're gonna drink till she's hot.
Hey, that's just crazy enough to work.
Peter finds a way to keep the cash flowing through fraudulent means. If the law caught up with him, he'd be looking at up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. Guess that's one way to pay off those extravagant shopping sprees. But why stop there? Peter also faked his child's illness to get on TV and impress the folks at Gumble to Gumble.
Is this a Grant the Dream Foundation? My son Chris is dying. Holy crap, no! Oh my God!
If caught, that's another 3 years in prison for charity fraud. Talk about a reality TV show gone wrong. Speaking of questionable career choices, let's talk about Peter's brief stint as a lady of the night. After losing his job at the happy-go-lucky toy factory, Peter decided that becoming a hooker was a totally reasonable career pivot. The law enforcement of Quahog might have been lenient, but in reality, that's 6 months behind bars.
Clearly, it's not that tube top.
Hey, looking for a good time, sweet cheeks?
Oh my God. Peter, get in the car.
Okay, but it'll cost you. What do you want, a Cleveland steamer?
I said get in the car. What's a Cleveland steamer?
It means that he'll...
Whoa, be cool. Yeah, so go to Maple Street and then take a left and then you go...
And honestly, given Peter's customer service skills, he probably wouldn't have lasted that long in the profession anyway. But hold on to your seats, because this is where Peter's criminal career takes a turn from "oh, you silly guy" to "holy cow, what were the writers thinking?"
Oh, yeah, and that nice chicken outside gave me this coupon.
I'm sorry, this is expired.
You son of a...
In what has to be one of the most catastrophic accidents in animated history, Peter manages to blow up an entire children's hospital. We're not talking about a small incident here. This is full-scale destruction with multiple casualties. In the real world, this level of criminal negligence resulting in death would land you 20 years in prison, minimum. And that's being generous with the sentencing. And just when you think it can't get worse, Peter discovers cannibalism. The Desert Island episode wasn't just a commentary on survival instincts, it was Peter literally eating Joe's legs. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Believe it or not, Quahog doesn't actually have specific laws against cannibalism, but the mutilation of Joe's body? That's another 20 years right there. Poor Joe. As if being wheelchair-bound wasn't challenging enough, he had to become Peter's survival snack. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me.
by Friday. Ugh, is that going to give us enough time to cross-check the...
Chicken gave me a bad Cooper. Down that football until Charlie Brown kicks it. You got that?
Yes.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Yay!
And you know what else? I did some checking around. You're not a licensed therapist. Roadhouse. Damn it. I'll teach Joe to ogle my wife.
Oh, hey, Peter. What are you clenching in that fist there?
Well, that was sadder than what I was going for. Well, at least it's over. Oh, God, those are all final notice wheelchair bills. Not a good day for Joe. Not a good day for Joe. Yeah, give him a chance, Joe. Like I did with Scary.
Next on Peter's crime list, we have assault and battery. Peter's legendary fights with Ernie the Giant Chicken have caused massive destruction over the years. If taken to court, Peter would be looking at up to 10 years for assault and battery, not to mention the property damage fines. And considering he's assaulted multiple people, his sentence could easily add up to 280 years in prison. Now, brace yourselves for Peter's Father of the Year moments. You've got to wonder, what did Peter's kids do to deserve such, well, let's say, creative parenting? Peter's crimes against his own children are a whole different story. We're talking child trafficking, abuse, and endangerment. Yep, Peter's got a real knack for winning Father of the Year awards. Poor Meg, Chris, and Stewie. They never stood a chance with Peter as their dad. But Meg, in particular, had it rough. Peter's crimes against her include selling her, physical abuse, and emotional abuse. Talk about a toxic family dynamic. If Peter were to face justice for these heinous crimes, he'd be looking at 50 years in prison and a $40,000 fine for trafficking Meg.
Better get on the ground! If this bitch moves, shoot him in the eye!
Dad, I don't want to do this!
You have to! Next week we're buying a zebra!
Dad!
There's no time to argue! We got 150 seconds before the police respond to the silent alarm! Now check those bags for dye packs! Who's the manager here?
I am.
What are you doing?
You said if he moves, shoot him!
He's the only one with a combination to the safe!
And that's not all. When Meg misses out on a prestigious school interview because Peter drags her along on a bank robbery, he'd get an additional 11 years for child abuse, armed robbery, and corrupting a minor. Yep, Peter's got a real talent for racking up those prison sentences. Talking about endangerment, Stewie wasn't left out. In the episode Brian's House of Pain, Meg and Chris accidentally push Stewie down the stairs. He gets injured, and Peter decides to blame the accident on Lois instead of taking Stewie to the hospital.
Oh my God! Stewie! Oh God, what have I done?
Looks like you ran over him, Lois.
Oh no!
This act of child endangerment carries a sentence of 3 years in jail. But Peter was just warming up.
Suck on this, you furry little weirdos!
In his masterpiece of terrible decisions, he attempted to massacre 20 Amish farmers. That's 400 years right there. And let's not forget his confirmed 45 murder cases, which would total 1,125 years behind bars. For his terrorist plots, Peter would likely get a life sentence, or potentially 450,000 years considering the damage he's caused. Oh, and did we mention that time Peter and his family became meth dealers? Just when we thought his crimes are bad enough, it gets worse. The Griffin family's venture into the drug world is another wild chapter. When they discovered a meth lab in their basement, they didn't call the cops. They became dealers. Throw in Peter's personal stash of hard drugs.
Dad. Tell you what, I'll get us started. That feels better.
You sure that stuff is okay?
All I know is the guys who made it are dead.
And we're adding 30 years plus a $100,000 fine for the meth lab and 21 years for each drug in his possession.
Peter, what are you doing? Quiet, Brian. I'm performing a psychic reading.
Peter, for the last time, you're not psychic.
I most certainly am. All right, Quagmire, clear your mind. Ooh, soft hands. Clear your mind, remove all traces of unease and doubt.
Speaking of great ideas, remember when Peter posed as a psychic to con people? If Peter were to be prosecuted for this crime, he could face up to 5 years in prison, restitution to victims, and additional fines.
Yes. Now come on.
What was that?
I don't know. It came from Scotty's room.
And in the episode, Living Out of Prayer, Lois drags Peter into kidnapping Scotty, Stewie's friend from daycare. Sure, their hearts were in the right place. They wanted to get him treatment for cancer. But kidnapping is kidnapping. When the victim is a minor, that's looking at 21 years to life. Let's not forget Peter's stellar record with animals. From strangling his own dog Brian to stabbing Yogi Bear, Peter's track record with animal cruelty is enough to make PETA have a collective heart attack. Under Quahog law, these repeated instances of animal cruelty add another 30 years to his sentence. And let's be honest, some of those animals probably had families.
And I'm drunk, so I'll give you my keys. Okay, now, you been drinking tonight, sir?
No, officer. I just had a glass of dinner with my wine.
Now, we need to talk about Peter's relationship with vehicles and alcohol, specifically his numerous DUI incidents. Each instance of drunk driving carries a 4-year sentence in Quahog, and Peter's been caught at least 4 times. That's 16 years right there, not counting the damage to property and potential endangerment of others on the road. And speaking of family matters, let's discuss Peter's interesting relationship with his father-in-law. Most people try to get along with their in-laws. Peter decides to blackmail his. That's another 15 years right there. But wait, he wasn't satisfied with just blackmail. Peter and his friends actually robbed his father-in-law. Add another 5 years for burglary. The property damage spree is another testament to Peter's dedication to chaos. We're talking about 9 separate incidents of major property destruction. In Rhode Island, each incident carries a 3-year sentence plus fines equal to 3 times the property value. That's 45 years and easily over $100,000 in fines. And let's be real, knowing Peter, that's probably a conservative estimate of the actual damage. Just when you think we've covered everything, remember that Peter also tried his hand at being a pimp. That's right, add another 5 years for promoting prostitution. You've got to admire his entrepreneurial spirit, even if his business ventures are consistently illegal. Now let's put this all together, and the numbers are absolutely staggering. We're looking at over 450,000 years in prison. That's longer than human civilization has existed. Add in the millions in fines, countless life sentences, and enough community service hours to last until the sun burns out, and you've got what might be the most impressive rap sheet in television history. Of course, we all know why Peter never faces consequences for these actions. He's a cartoon character in a comedy show, where the reset button gets hit at the start of each episode. But imagine if Peter Griffin existed in the real world. He'd have his own wing in every prison in Rhode Island. His criminal record would be thicker than the phone book, and the Griffin family would be paying off his fines for the next 1,000 generations. But you know what? Maybe that's part of why we love Family Guy so much. In Peter Griffin, we get to see someone live out the most outrageous scenarios imaginable. Consequences be damned. He's like a walking, talking lesson in what not to do, wrapped in a package of endless entertainment. So, what do you think? Did I miss any of Peter's crimes? Let me know in the comments below.